in the packet. If you are not familiar with how that works, please be sure to read carefully the entire packet that has the information on how the auction is conducted. You will be, when you make the $2,000 deposit, signing a statement that you have read and understand those conditions, and that is an obligation. The bidding itself is pretty traditional: auctioneer calling off prices, people waving cards to respond bidding. We have an auctioneer, John Bippus, who we've worked with for many years, who is very good about not rushing things, about making sure that people know what's going on. I've seen instances where somebody has made a bid, and then before somebody else's bid, they make another bid, and he tells them, no, don't do that. You're the current high bidder. He keeps track of that. And again, if you're not comfortable with the process, feel free to come in and watch how that works. It does work very smoothly. If you're not the successful bidder on any property, when you leave the auction, you go back to the front table and you return your bidder card, you get your deposit back, and you go on your way. If you are a successful bidder, there are a couple of additional things to know about. One is that whatever the bid is, there is a 10% auctioneer's fee added to that. And so if you successfully bid $20,000 on a property, there'll be an additional $2,000 added, which does not go to the county, but goes to the auctioneer. There's also a $30 deed transfer charge added. And so on that $20,000 example, you're obligated to pay $22,030. If you're a successful bidder, the $2,000 deposit that you've already made is applied to the purchase price. We have a couple of copies of the contract that's noted on both your copy and the county's copy. Additional payments to get to the bid amount are accepted right at the checkout desk. And so you're able to make additional payments if you have the money available. But if not, and in any event, by 4:30 p.m. on the day of the auction, you must have paid 10% of the bid plus the auctioneer's fee, either at that counter or at our office in Mason. The Lansing office of the treasurer does not accept those payments. It has to be done in Mason. And that has to be done again by 4:30 p.m. And we'll talk you through that as you're checked out at the Lansing Center. Personal checks are accepted, unlike at the initial check-in, but no plastic, no debit cards, no credit cards are accepted for any of the costs, either at the beginning or at the end of the process. It is all it's all paper, it's all cash and checks. You then have 2 weeks from the day of the auction to pay the full amount that was bid. You also have 3 weeks, so an additional week beyond that, to pay the summer tax bill on that property and present evidence of that to our office in Mason. So that's an extra week. But one of the things to recognize is that on September 1st, so about a week after the auction, the cost of doing that will go up at the local unit. And so you want to get that done sooner rather than later, or it's going to cost more. The Lansing Center is walking distance to Lansing City Hall. And one thing that's very reasonable to do is to leave the auction, walk to City Hall, take care of the summer tax bill, and then later in the day come back to Mason to finish up the process. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but on October 19th is the second auction. On the October 19th auction will be any remaining parcels that are not sold at the first auction, and there the county is not required to try to recover the taxes. We're trying to sell the property for whatever price we can get, and so there'll be lower starting bids. And so if that opening bid is too high, it's worth more than the property is, there's a second shot at it in October, and that's when we'd expect that that property would be sold. I'm going to stop there and see what questions we have, and handle whatever interests all of you in this whole process.
I just want to clarify one thing, Alan, that I think you said is it's not 10% by 430 and the auctioneer fee. It's just 10% of the full purchase price, which includes that 10% auctioneer fee. I just wanted to clarify that one point.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then if anybody has questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself and you can go ahead and ask those.
Yeah, hi, Alan. This is Eric Tomal. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You didn't cover evictions yet, did you?
No, that's a good question.
Well, let me ask my question first, if you don't
okay.
mind.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that there's active evictions and that you won't transfer the house to the winning bidder until your active eviction is concluded or the homeowner is actually out of the house. Is that correct?
Yeah, although most of these are not homeowners, but yes, until the occupants are out. Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. The district court is hearing the evictions, I think, the day after the auction. Usually they're done before that. This case, as I said, COVID, and so we'll work with the purchasers and we'll be monitoring the properties, so we'll know when they become open, and we'll work closely to get you in as quickly as possible.
So my follow-up is, in the event that your eviction goes past the 2 weeks when you have to pay in full for whatever reason, is the winning bidder still obligated then to pay the full amount within the 2 weeks? Because I would prefer to wait until the person's actually out of the house, quite frankly.
So the statute requires that 2 week. I think we would work with you depending on the circumstances, and as long as we're in communication, we can probably stretch that. But that would be case by case.
Now, when you say the eviction is the next day after the auction, is that the actual trial then?
That's the actual hearing at district court. Yes.
Not the pre-trial, but it's a trial as far as you know?
I don't know that I'm not familiar with how evictions are done in court. But I believe it's the final action of the court. I don't think there's been any previous action, but it is at least conceivable that an occupant will come and contest that. I don't think that's likely, but certainly the right of anybody to do that, and that would obviously also affect how we proceed. This is new ground for us, so to some extent we're going to have to see how it works. But I think if we end up in a situation where there's a contest to the eviction and it's clear that we're not going to get access right away, there'd be a couple of options that we would work out with the buyer. One is to delay the purchase. The other is to cancel the purchase, and we'd be open to either one of those. But let's wait and see what actually happens and what the facts are. We're not trying to grab money from people who can't get the property. We want to try to get the sale to go through, and we'll make that work depending on the circumstances. But those are good questions, and again, it's not something we have normally. We may have one or two evictions that are pending, and we've done similar things in those cases. I could imagine a situation where it's not clear what's going on right away, and we cancel a sale and then resell it at the October auction when there's more clarity and maybe a property is open. So that's also an option.
I only bring this up because from the time you file a new eviction, it takes 3 months to get a pretrial. Then at the pretrial, it's going to take another 3 months to kick someone out. Then they may get a free attorney. So your court date right at eviction may be a pretrial, maybe not a trial, which may delay it. But I guess we'll figure that out.
Yeah,
we'll figure that out.
Hey, Eric, you could talk to Charlie, our attorney, if you wanted the specifics on this, but it's been my experience that after this hearing, we're able to get the order of eviction. That's where we're at in the process. So, I mean, we've filed the eviction back in April, so we're far into the process at this point.
Okay, then there's probably going to be a 10-day appeal period to get the person out.
And we very rarely actually have anybody contest these because they know that we're able to follow through. We've talked to the judges about them before. In fact, we tried to get them to expedite them for us, but obviously the courts are very backed up. So we're pushing through very aggressively to get possessions of the homes because that's where we're at in the process. But I'm happy to give you Charlie's number if you'd like to discuss the specifics with him. He'll be the best resource for that.
Yes.
All right, thanks. I already have his number, but that's all my questions.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm glad you brought that up because that is something we need to spend some time on this time.
I want to ask about, I saw one of the properties was on there last year. And is that one still subject to the back taxes? Or is it going to be, what's going to happen with that one?
So there are two properties that are, this may be one of them, that the land bank has added to the auction list. So they were already
okay.
acquired by the land bank. Those have minimum bids that are not related to past taxes. They're related to the land bank's costs. I believe they are the last two items on the list. It's I want to say they're items 71 and 72, and so there's a minimum bid for those, but it's not related to taxes due. Is that one of the? Are those the ones you're looking at, or is there another one that I'm not thinking?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but I don't have the list in front of me.
Oh,
There
okay.
was one on Katy Street, and I was driving by there, and there's another sign out there.
It's actually the lot next door to the one we sold last year. So it's not the same one.
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So it's not the house.
Nope. Well,
Okay, thank you.
it's the property that caught, is it, Roxanne, is it the one that caught fire or is it the one next to it? I can't remember now. Do you remember?
It's the one next to the one that caught fire.
Thank you.
And it's actually on
Okay.
Johnson, not on Katy, I
Yes.
believe.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So, all right.
It's tricky
thank you.
because the parcel goes from Johnson to Katy
Interesting.
on our
Okay.
last one, but
Very
not that.
good. Thank you.
Thanks, Roxanne.
Roxanne, do you want to say anything about the two parcels that were added by the land bank? Is there anything of interest about those?
Not really. Both of them are ones that have come through foreclosure previously. Depot Street, we actually demolished a property on it, so it's vacant. Lady Slipper is extra property that was in a development that ended up not being developed. It was a section that wasn't developed. Some of it is wetlands, so anyone who is bidding on that definitely needs to pay attention to the one on Lady Slipper.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We had a couple repeat questions in the chat, just wanting to reiterate which properties have the owner occupancy covenant on them. And that would be 921 North Capitol, which is also the property that has the historical preservation covenant on it, 2104 South Rundle, and 2225 Pamela Place. Those are the three that will be that will require the owner occupancy covenant.
And I believe all three of them will have open houses when the time comes. And I know at least two of them do, and I'm assuming the third is.
Yeah, all three will be able to show.
Yeah. I also did not add that reminds me that two of the parcels are sold on site the afternoon of the auction. One of them is the house on Pamela Place that has the owner occupancy covenant, and that will be one of the properties shown. The other is a vacant lot in White Hills Lakes. That's the fairly exclusive and interesting neighborhood where the purchaser will have the opportunity to build a house that will be close to various famous people, including Tom Izzo and Mark D'Antonio, who have properties in that neighborhood. So that's an unusual parcel, and we're going to sell that on site because I think it's much easier to show what it looks like and how it fits into the neighborhood by being there in person instead of showing a picture on the screen.
We have a question. How does the on-site bidding process work?
It works the same way as the in-person. If you're going to bid on a property on the on-site, don't check out at the end of the Lansing Center auction. Keep your deposit on file, if you will. One of us will be there with those deposits. The paperwork gets done standing up in the field practically, but the bidding is done in the same manner with John Bippus, starting at the opening bid price and asking for bids. Usually only the people interested in bidding are there, so it might only be a handful of people. So it's a little bit different atmosphere, but we handle it much the same way. You've got the same requirements about paying the 10% by 4:30. We will figure out ways to get the paperwork into the right places and get the deposits to the right places, and we'll may even, if things go late, show a little flexibility about that because we're running short on time at that point.
Okay, there's one of the things that it said, it was a notice that came up, was this is being recorded. Are you guys recording this and we can look at it later? I don't know if I'm recording it, if there's another person.
We're recording it so that we can put it
Okay,
on our
very good.
website for people who aren't here,
Okay.
so they can see
Thank
this.
you
Yeah.
very much.
I think Laura Plaza has a question. I can if she wants to unmute.
Yes, I was wondering if we are a successful bidder and we go to City Hall to pay the taxes owed, is that to be paid with a personal check? Is that an acceptable form of payment, or does it need to be a cashier's check?
The city of Lansing will accept personal checks. They may even accept, I'm not sure if they'll accept credit cards on site. I know they do through some other methods. And so it's whatever payment methods are accepted by the city, but every municipality, not just City of Lansing, will accept personal checks.
Okay, and then I have one follow-up question to that. After paying the taxes, do we also at that same point pay the remainder of the purchase, or are we able to complete all of the payments required at one time in
Nope,
one location, or?
What you're paying at the City of Lansing or other township or city is the current tax bill that was issued in July that has to be paid directly to the city. Everything else is done by the county and has to be done in our office in Mason. There's as I said, there's an extra week to pay the local taxes, and I'm only advising not taking that time because by state law, on September 1st, the amount that's due will go up by, I want to say 3%. It may be a little bit different from that, but the auction is being conducted by the county, and the other payments are made to the county. The city of Lansing, paying the city of Lansing's July tax bill is required by statute in order to get the deed. That has to be done to them, and we only, at the county, we only need the proof of the payment.
I see. So if we go and we pay the city, then we could essentially could we go straight from there to Mason and take care of any other final amounts?
Absolutely.
Or do we need to have a waiting period?
Nope, no waiting period. You'll have a receipt from the city. We just need to see and make a copy of the receipt. On occasion, it's probably not going to happen at this auction, but the second auction, where sometimes property is sold for just the deposit amount, people go to the city, finish the transaction there, and just email us the receipt, so they don't have to come to Mason. In fact, if you make the full payment at the counter at the Lansing Center, and some people will do that, same thing goes. Once you've got the receipt from the Lansing City Treasurer's Office, just emailing it to us is all you need to do. We don't need to do anything in Mason, but anything that is due to the county does have to come through the Mason office.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I think Tim has a question if he wants to unmute and go ahead.
Good morning, or pardon me, good afternoon. I found a piece of property that I'm very interested in. And I went over there and scoped out the property, looks pretty decent. And being a jack of all trades, I see like a lot of potential for it. But here's my question. When I looked at the property, and I don't want to give the property number because that's like my little golden charm, but it just tells me like where it's located, and it tells me, you know, like where it's setting and things like that, but it doesn't really show me the acreage on it. Is there any way I can figure that out, or?
The acreage numbers are usually available from the local assessor or the local treasurer's office. They're not part of the property records that we see. But you know, if it's in City of Lansing, contact the Lansing assessor. Actually, if it's in City of Lansing, the assessor's office will have that on their website. If it's outside the city, and because you're talking about acreage, I'm going to guess it's in one of the rural townships. Contact the township assessor's office, and they'll have that information. We just don't get that with tax records. We don't see the acreage.
Okay, copy that. Thank you all.
Alternatively, if you I'm going to volunteer Jenna here. If you call Jenna directly, so that you have a conversation that's not being watched by 20 other people, I think we may have that information and may be able to pass that on. And anybody should feel free to call us for things like that are easy to answer. We're not going to tell you much about condition of property. That's a judgment call. But anything that's a factual question, feel free to give our office a call, and then we can see what we have.
All right, thank you all very much. See you on 25th.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Johnson, go ahead.
All right, so earlier he said that some properties have been pulled from the auction. Now, were those properties bought by an ancillary other, or were they just, what happened? How does that happen? Like, can we go in and buy them now?
Nope, you can't buy them now. There are three things that I can think of. One is that a local unit of government does have the authority under state law to purchase a property before auction, pay the minimum bid, and take over the property. And so that happened to one of the rural parcels. Another is that on parcel, I want to say on Cesar Chavez, we discovered that we'd made an error, that that notification did not go to all of the parties who had an interest in it. That one party contacted us, and we were obligated to pull it from the auction and allow them to pay the taxes. The third one that I know of that may be pulled will also be potentially a local unit option. The City of Lansing has just discovered that one of the parcels that's a vacant lot in Lansing may be one that they need in order to have access to sewer lines or something like that. They haven't gotten back to us to say, yes, they're definitely doing that or not. If anything else like that comes up, including a party who we've missed in all the notification process, we'd be obligated to pull it from the auction and allow them to pay the taxes. I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's always a possibility, and it's a possibility right up to the day of the auction. But we do know we are not permitted to, and we do not sell property before the auction. It must go through the auction process before it can be sold to anybody outside the auction process.
Mr. Jenkins, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My question was for the 20 years where you said owner occupied. So if I purchase the property and I'm the highest bidder, I get the property, I get the deed, and now I do the rehab work, and now I have that 20 years where the owner has to be occupied. I remember you saying that I personally don't have to live there for the 20 years, but the person who actually gets the property, can they have to rent it for 20 years, or am I doing some kind of owner finance where I'm taking payments for the 20 years, or what are my options with that, or what is that scenario and entails for me to be able to be legally within the boundaries of that certain situation?
You would have to sell the property so that the owner of the property is occupying it. A land contract situation, I think we would have to look at the particulars of the land contract. The specific language in the agreement, in the auction packet, is that the property cannot be subject to a city rental housing requirement. And so if the property is occupied in a way that legally requires a rental housing license, then that would violate the deed.
Okay.
So pretty simply, we just say it can't be a rental for 20 years. You can buy it, flip it, sell it. You can buy it, live in it. You can buy it, sell it. You can sell it on a land contract, but at no time in the 20-year period can the property be a rental, either registered or uncertified. It still violates the covenant.
Okay, and it has to be for 20 years straight in a row.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Early, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. My question is pretty simple. Will there be a revised list sent out at all prior to the auction with all of these noted changes?
There's already a revised list posted on the website. I should have said that at the beginning, that what's now on the website is revised from the original one. There may be other revisions between now and then. We are going to put out a new copy of it at the end of the week when we have the open house schedule confirmed. But changes may be made right up to and including the day of the auction itself. So keep an eye on things. If there are particular properties you're interested in, look at whatever is posted to see if anything has changed there.
And if changes are made up until the time of the auction, we will announce that when the bid item comes up, just to make sure that everyone's fully aware of whatever the current situation for that property is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I don't have anyone who's currently making themselves known with a question. So I had a couple other things just to highlight, Alan, if that's okay with you.
Please.
Okay, just that properties are sold as is, so there's no assurances as to the usability of a property. It's really up to the owners to do their own due diligence to make sure that a property is going to be suitable for whatever it is that you're intending to use it for. We acquire the properties through adverse possession, so we don't know conditions or the history of a property any more than you guys do. So the best thing to do is your research ahead of time. The more you know, the better you can plan financially to make sure that this process is going to work for you. None of the properties that we sell are move-in ready. They are all in some level of disrepair. And the only way that this really works for you is if you keep in mind what has to go into the property in terms of rehab when you're bidding on the property. So, you know, whatever the amount is that you think you're able to spend on a property, plus the amount that you're gonna have to put into it for rehab, and then what you'd be able to sell it for on the market. Those are the figures you need to keep in mind when going into the auction process. And Treasurer Schertzing, who was here before, Treasurer Fox, used to always say, you know, write your number on a piece of paper and put it under your leg at the auction. That way you can visually see it, you can keep it in mind, because what happens a lot of time, and we had it happen a couple times last year, is the auctions get a little competitive, you get a little excited, you know, adrenaline, what have you, and there's somebody across the room who keeps bidding you up and you get carried away and you bid these properties up to an amount that is a little unreasonable. It's more than the property ends up being worth once you put in the amount that needs to be done for rehabilitation. And twice last year, we had people back out of a sale and lose a significant amount of money in their deposit because they couldn't come through on the amount that they bid the property up to. We don't want to see it happen, but it does, and there are consequences to that. So really keep in mind that the dollar figures that are reasonable for how you intend to use a property. We want to see good rehabs. We want to see the before and after pictures of what you guys are able to do, because our whole goal here is to see these properties come back to life and come back to a useful use for you, the neighbors, and the community at large. So that's my little additional spiel.
And I'll reemphasize all of that. Ordinarily, in an auction, the seller is trying to get the maximum price. And obviously, we're interested in recovering a good price. But our prime goal is to restore property to proper use, to make a property fit into the neighborhood, to make it the sort of place where the neighbors aren't constantly wondering who's going to take care of it and what's going to happen to it. It revitalizes not just the property, but the whole neighborhood. I think all of these, or almost all of these properties, are in neighborhoods that have good in repair property around them. And it's our goal to restore them and not just to maximize the cost that we recover at the auction. One of the reasons that we do the auction in person, even as everywhere else in the country, places are moving to doing these online, is that we know that the people bidding will be at least local enough that they'll be able to come to Lansing and bid, and hopefully local enough that they'll be able to actually drive to the properties, take a look at them, and have a view of them that's more than a picture or two. The online auctions often attract more bidders, they attract higher prices, but they don't attract better outcomes, and they don't benefit the community, and we're looking for that benefit to the community.
Mr. Johnson? Oh, you're still muted.
Okay, so is this two questions? In the packet, that you download and print, there was a sheet that says like something like contractors come to this table and sign up for whatever. I don't remember exactly what it said.
Okay.
Do we have access to those contractors? And second question, sorry, I'm in a cafe. Second question is, oh man. Second question, they said they're sorry. So second question was, is this strictly city taxes stuff, or do private people have stuff in there? I think you said the land bank has one. I don't know if that's a private entity or if that's, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, well, let me talk about that, because the two questions are actually more related than you may realize. Whatever does not sell at the first or second auction, so the stuff that nobody wants to pay even a small amount on, goes to the Ingham County Land Bank. The Land Bank is established by state law. It's a county agency, and it is responsible for taking the property that none of us think is worth enough to sell, even for close to nothing at the second auction, and reviving it, possibly combining it with other parcels, doing something to make it so that we can eventually get it back in productive use, even though at this point in time, nobody sees a productive use for it. And so the land bank has properties from past auctions that either are ready for people to do construction on, or are ready for people to do the same kind of rehab work that they might do with parcels that they buy at the auction. And we'll have a lot of the people who come to the auction who do that kind of work. And so this is a way of getting those folks, most of whom will not successfully buy something, hooked up with a land bank to see if they can work with a land bank to rehab some of the property that's been sitting for, in many cases, 10, 15 years. So this is, I hate to use words like synergy and things like that. That's really what this is to try to get, we've got all these people in one room who are into this space, who want to do this kind of work. And we're looking for ways to get them connected with opportunities.
So I'm not clear on if
Yeah.
we as bidders and winners of the bid, do we have access to those people? Or is it strictly, I don't know, we can go up and talk to them, or you're gonna maintain a list of these people? Or how does that work?
Well, so this is the first time we've done this to try to recruit people with the land bank. Uh, I'd say the same thing I do about going to the open houses. Talk to people. All of these folks who do this regularly are willing to share. And if you're looking to build relationships with people who might be able to work with you on properties, that's wonderful. It's not a formal process. It's informal. It's connecting with people. And one of the things we're trying to do is build all those connections, because that's the only way, we're going to solve things in Lansing is to have folks who are working on the same issues, talking to each other and combining resources. So it's not a formal program. And people who are contractors who work with the land bank don't work exclusively with the land bank. They're looking for opportunities, and they're looking for them wherever they can find them. So come to the auction, talk to people, and we hope something comes of it. Anybody else?
Let me check the comments here, Alan. Oh, we did have, we had somebody add in that as a contractor, they always bring cards for people who, like you who ask. It's great to have a shared interest, so bring your cards to share. That's a great point. It's a great place to make connections, both at the open houses and the auctions. We find that people are very friendly and like to chat, so if you just start a conversation, odds are you'll make a connection. Roxanne, was there anything else on that you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I think you too, Alan, have hit the nose, so I appreciate it. Nope. We're looking for contractors. We're always developing and renovating, and so we're always looking for contractors. So that is one of the reasons why that extra piece was in the packet, to just let contractors know we're looking to sign you up. Thank you.
I don't think
And we didn't do a full
Roxanne,
introduction. That's Roxanne Case, who's the executive director of the Ingham County Land Bank. Their phone number and address and every other bit of contact information are on the internet. And as Roxanne says, they're looking to make contact with people who've got skills and interests. And please feel free to contact them and see what's available. The land bank has an inventory of a few hundred parcels. Many of them are not suitable for much of anything. As I said, they get everything that nobody else can use. And sometimes the reason nobody else can use them is that they're not usable. But some of them are, and we're looking all the time for opportunities to get new construction and get rehab and revitalize neighborhoods.
I did have somebody else ask in the comments here about the open houses. The open house schedule will be available by the end of the week. They are always the week before the auction. So in this case, it will be the Monday through Thursday before the week before the auction, from 4 to 6 p.m. But the list of properties that we will be showing will be made public by this Friday. And I think if nobody else has any questions, then I think we can call it good. Alan, anything else?
No, thank you all for watching. Again, if anybody is invited to come and watch, if you don't want to bid, and I suggest that to anybody who's unfamiliar with the process, if this is an area you've got some expertise in and want to get involved in, it doesn't hurt to wait a year, see how the process works. A year from now, we'll have another 50, 60, 70, 80 parcels that will, in many cases, look very similar to these. It's an ongoing process, an ongoing situation, and there will always be opportunities. So glad to have everybody participating, and hope to see everybody at the auction on the 25th.
Thank you. Everyone have a good one.
Thank you.